At 8:30 to explain a bit more about this WXV tournament and how it's going to work. Right, it is 22 minutes past 8 and researchers have found paid parental leave from work improves a new mother's health. The findings reported in today's issue of the New Zealand Medical Journal are based on a literature review carried out by Otago University senior lecturer in psychological medicine, Kate Eagleston, and others. Dr. Eagleston is with us now. Kia ora, good morning. All right. How did you do this study? You just looked around the world, did you, at other countries that have got a similar scheme?
Yeah, essentially we were interested in the issue because both Labour and National announced policies regarding paid leave for partners after the birth of a new baby, and we wanted to know whether it sounds like a good idea, but does the research support this, and what would be the impact on mental health? So we had a look around recent research and applied that to the New Zealand context.
And the research shows that it does certainly have benefits.
Yeah, most of the research is in mothers, and it's really clear that parental leave is beneficial for mental health. So it's associated with decreased depression symptoms, psychological distress and burnout. The important thing is that it needs to be paid. Unpaid leave isn't as good.
Where do we sit in terms of those OECD countries in terms of the paid leave for partners? Because it seems to be that obviously both National and Labour, they have slightly different views on how to do it, but they're on the same page really, aren't they? To get there at some point, where do we sit? Are we behind the eight ball a little bit on this?
Yeah, we are behind. So we're one of only 3 OECD countries that doesn't currently offer paid leave for partners. So I think it's fantastic that both of the parties are considering how to support families in this really important time.
And what are the key benefits identified in terms of adding the partners element to it? What does it show?
Yeah, that was a question. Obviously, we were particularly interested in it as well, and there's limited evidence, but the studies that are around do suggest that it does have a positive effect on maternal mental health. So there were decreased depression symptoms for mothers if their partners were able to stay at home.
And what about the benefits for mothers? What about for children?
Yep, so it's good for kids as well. Paid parental leave is good for the whole family. There are really clear positive physical health effects for kids. So decreased mortality in the first 5 years of life, which is a pretty massive outcome, but other health benefits as well. And there's also kind of early evidence suggesting there will be mental health benefits for kids as well, including better social, emotional and cognitive outcomes. So it's a great thing for families. There are some countries around the world that do significantly more for both parents.
Obviously, cost remains, the big issue for any government.
Yeah, I think cost, obviously, people are always thinking about when there are suggestions around policies like this. From what we found, there is a suggestion that there's not a substantial negative economic effect. I'm not an economist, but we did find some literature saying that, so I thought that was really interesting, that perhaps the beneficial effects of offering paid leave to both parents could have such significant positive health effects that you might not get a much increase in cost.
So happier, healthier, more productive.
Yes, that's all good.
I feel like I'm quoting a Radiohead song. Hey, thank you very much. That is Dr. Eagleston there, Dr. Kate Eagleston from Otago University, senior lecturer in psychological medicine, with some interesting literature review of studies on paid parental leave. 27 minutes past 8.
Just a little item of transport disruption to get you up to date with. In Auckland, there are delays and cancellations on the Southern Line train services that is due to a train fault near Ellerslie. Well, the eruption of Tonga's Hunga Ha'apai volcano early last year chewed up around 5% of ozone over the tropical southwestern Pacific and Indian Ocean. The volcanic plume, which reached around 57 kilometres high, was full of ash, gases and, crucially, water vapour. Now, scientists believe that water vapour cooled the stratosphere, creating conditions for ozone depletion. We're joined now by University of Canterbury atmospheric chemist, Associate Professor Laura Revel. Kia ora, welcome to the program.
Kia ora, good morning.
Okay, in very basic terms, can you explain what's gone on here?
Yes, so normally we would see a bit of ozone depletion following an eruption in the months following. What we seem to have, the scientists on the study have observed here is a really rapid ozone loss that they observed from launching balloons carrying scientific instruments right into that volcanic plume as it was carried away from the volcano. And so, as you mentioned, there was an awful lot of water vapour that was injected into the stratosphere from this eruption. That water vapour has cooled the stratosphere quite rapidly and created the sorts of conditions for ozone depletion that we might see over Antarctica during winter and spring when the ozone hole forms, which we all know about, of course.
Well, we do, but the ozone hole used to be big news. It sort of slipped off the radar, didn't it? Why is ozone important?
So the ozone layer shields us from harmful UVB radiation from the sun, which would cause a lot of skin cancers if we're exposed to it in large amounts. And of course, there was a lot of concern back in the 1980s and 1990s that the use of chlorine-containing chemicals would eat away at the ozone layer and lead to widespread ozone losses.
Now, how long this ozone layer depletion that you've detected here, how long does that last?
So what the authors it's on the volcano, not over Antarctica. The authors on this paper have identified there was quite a short-lived 5% ozone loss over the tropics. This would, they only measured a few days during the balloon launches, but this would have been a fairly short-lived ozone loss. So it's a big perturbation to the stratosphere, but it's a relatively minor impact compared to the ozone hole that we see over Antarctica for 3 months of every year.
Okay. Just finally, what are the impacts of this research?
So it's a really nice high-quality data set that confirms a lot of what we thought about what was happening in the atmosphere following an eruption. It's really nice to have that data. Also looking forward, that water vapour in the stratosphere is expected to linger up there for another 4 to 5 years, and so that could have continued impacts on atmospheric chemistry in the coming years. So I guess time and continued atmospheric monitoring will tell.
Thank you very much for explaining all of that to us. That was University of Canterbury atmospheric chemist, Associate Professor Laura Revel. It is 8:30 now. That is time to get through to Kim Moody for an update on the business news. Kia ora, Kim.
Kia ora, Ingrid. Well, Wall Street stocks are falling, with Tesla down sharply. Investors also weighing on comments from the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. Now, he's signalled that the Fed might extend its interest rate pause. Of course, investors are trying to determine whether that means central bank will keep those interest rates higher for longer and what that will mean. So the Dow Jones is down 0.7%, S&P 500 down 0.8%, the Nasdaq is down 0.9%. Our local top 50 index starting the day at 11,135 after yesterday's sharp drop of 86 points, or nearly 0.8%. The New Zealand dollar is trading at 59.4 US cents, 92.3 Australian cents, 48.1 pence. 0.552 euro, 87.6 Japanese yen and 4.27 Chinese yuan. Brent crude oil is up $1.50 to $93 US a barrel, and gold up $29 to $1,976 US an ounce. We'll bring you the latest business news and numbers in midday report.
Great, thank you very much, Kim. We will hear from you then. Whākine is still to come before 9 here on Morning Report. We'll look back at that election result. Gosh, a week has gone past already, and discuss the parliamentary limbo land we've entered with our weekly political panel. Hours after the All Blacks tackle Argentina at the Rugby World Cup in Paris, Taranaki and Hawke's Bay will battle it out out for the NPC domestic rugby title. And of course it is Friday, so we will get the very latest news out of Australia too. Now with the headlines, here's Catriona McLeod.
Agencies are warning that the civilians trapped in Gaza will need far more than the initial 20 truckloads of supplies Israel has agreed to. For almost 2 weeks, Israel has cut off all water, food, medicine, fuel and electricity from the Palestinian population of 2.3 million as it seeks to wipe out the militant group Hamas. Egyptian officials say road repairs are underway to prepare for the flow of aid through Egypt's border with Gaza. Te Pāti Māori says government leaders have failed to act proactively on international conflict in the Middle East. Co-leader Debbie Nare-Rapaka told Morning Report it's not a two-side situation because only the Palestinian people are living under military occupation. She says the party wants the incoming and outgoing governments to more strongly condemn the violence and insist on an urgent ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Debbie Nare-Rapaka says the government should be prepared to kick out the Israeli ambassador if the fighting does not stop. A public transport advocate says there are cheaper ways of delivering Auckland's light rail, and he hopes the new government will consider those options. National wants to scrap the existing project. Matt Lowry says there's still a need to connect the city centre and the airport.